In today's session, we will see some more aspects of organizing our public speaking. So, the first point here we are going to discuss today is telling a story of human interest. Second one, using a statement that excites attention, arouses curiosity, surprises the audience. Third one, tell a humorous story, a significant quotation and an anecdote. These are some of the things that we can put in our speech to make our speech more interesting. I'll give you now one very good example of this one. Before that, I like to tell you, telling a story of human interest. Here we have to be very careful. The story that we are selecting should be apt. It should be appropriate to the topic that we have selected, and also appropriate to the age level and intellectual level of the audience. And it should be relevant, and it should be very crisp and short. It should have a message. It should not be very long, which will occupy most of our speech. So, where can we get such a type of short stories? In the next video, because some of my students as well as viewers have asked me through messages that I have to give some tips on what kind of books that they can read and how to remember that what they are going to speak, how to deliver their speech uninterruptedly, and how to gain the confidence. So I will focus on these 3 points in the next video, and I will also give a list of books that which will be helping us to be good public speakers. So talking about stories, there are plenty of stories available. Zen stories, Panchatantra, Jataka tales, and you have parables from Bible, parables from Upanishads, and interesting, if you read biographies and autobiographies, you will get real life stories of people. Like this, we have to read them and assimilate them and keep it within us, so that whenever a relevant situation comes and appropriate, you think it is appropriate for the occasion, you have to tell it in a very interesting manner, but very crisply and shortly. Let us come to this point now. Using a statement that excites attention, arouses curiosity, surprises the audience. See, I will give you two examples I will give you today, which will make you understand this one. A very interesting speech by one engineer in one of America's largest companies, when he was talking about human beings. He is describing human beings. And you see how he describes the human beings. Man is complete, self-contained, totally enclosed power plant, available in a variety of sizes and reproducible in quantity. He is relatively long-lived, has major components in duplicate, and science is rapidly making strides towards solving the spare parts problem. He is waterproof, amphibious, operates on a wide variety of fuels, enjoys thermostatically controlled temperature, circulating fluid heat, evaporative cooling, has sealed lubricated bearings, audio and optional direction and rangefinders, sound and sight recording, and equipped with automatic control called a brain. So this way the description of human beings end. It's an extemporary speech that the speaker was doing. You see how interestingly he is talking about the human beings. And another example is, classic example is by Mark Antony in Julius Caesar. If you see, he begins his speech, it actually surprises the audience, you know. So when he says that I come to bury Caesar but not to praise him, That is the beginning. Then he says, continues, that I am no orator as Brutus is, but as you know me all, a plain blunt man. For I have neither wit, nor worth, nor words, action, nor utterance, nor the power of speech to stir men's blood. I only speak right on. This is how Mark Antony begins his speech, funeral oration, we call it in Julius Caesar, which is an example for this very crisp but very interesting, and which arouses the curiosity of the people. And regarding preparation, how much preparation we have to do, that also I will be elaborating. Daniel Webster, who was a senator, in his reply to Hayne, he says that somebody asked him in his reply to Haynes, how many hours you have prepared this speech? He said jokingly, 20 years. One way it is correct. He took actually 5 days for preparation, but 20 years he has taken for organizing his thoughts. That means on the topic his ideas have generated. So he used all those things in his speech, so that a speech cannot be taken lightly. It needs thorough preparation. That is very important. Then we will come to a humorous story, and when we are coming to humorous story, it should be very brief and short, and it should be also apt. It's not that we know a story so that we will tell only that type of story. It should not be like that. And stories should have a humor ending. It should have irony. It should have sarcasm. It should have wit, and it should evoke laughter in the audience. So after the story, we should not be in a hurry. One of my friends, he used to tell his tips for the public speakers. If you see, it's very humorous. He used to say that a speaker should not suffer from content constipation and verbal diarrhea. See, it looks a little odd, but you see what a humorous way he is telling it. Content constipation means content does not come out. That means you have a content maybe, or you may not have content also, but it doesn't come out. Verbal diarrhea, articulation, does not know when to stop, and it goes on till the audience get bored. So this is the thing that we have to always remember. And humorous stories, there are many humorous stories that your life itself will give you, your observation. If you keep observing people around, when you are walking, when you are in the market, when you are outside, in home, among your friends in the society, you will find a lot of humorous incidents happening. You should register all those things and use them, because real life examples will always evoke very good interest among the audience, and that is why humorous stories have to be kept in mind, and a significant quotation. And this is because we may think that and it should not be more quotations. Our full speech should not be for somebody's telling that two speakers who select and tell that Mahatma Gandhi said like this, 2 pages you read, and then Swami Vivekananda said like this, another 2 pages you read, and you have got nothing of your own things to say. Not like that. Appropriately, in order to authenticate what you are speaking, you have to borrow the ideas of the people. That is, the great people's ideas should be borrowed there. I am going to read an example. It's an excerpt from Swami Vivekananda's speech in Chennai. And this speech, what I am going to give you now, will tell you how correct words can be selected, how the sentences are forceful, and how it mesmerizes the audience. So I quote now. He says, if there is one word in the English language to represent the gift of India unto the world, if there is one word in the English language to style the effect which the literature of India produces upon mankind, it is this one word: fascination. It is the opposite of anything that takes you suddenly, throws on you, as it were, a charm all of a sudden. To many, Indian thought, Indian literature are repulsive at the first sight. But let them persevere, let them read, let them become familiar with the great principles underlying these ideas, and it is 99 to 1 that the charm will be upon them. Fascination will be the result. Slowly and silently, as the gentle dew that falls in the morning, unseen, unheard, yet producing a most tremendous result, has been the work of this calm, patient, all-suffering, spiritual grace upon the world of thought. See what a beautiful paragraph. Here, what literary device Swamiji adopts, he might not have prepared it that I have to use this literary device and that literary device and all. He is a unparalleled orator because of the knowledge that he had, that because of the content, that stuff and knowledge and intellectual ability that he had, the words come out. If you see afterwards, if you analyze, it has a very good technique of parsing, and it has repetition. See here, he says that Indian thought, Indian manners, Indian customs, Indian philosophy, Indian literature, repetition. Then again he has the word he stresses, that is the fascination will be the result. So, tremendous result, alliteration. Slowly and silently, again he uses alliteration. And one word, that is suddenly and surprisingly. So this is the way that, and then correct words he has selected, adjectives in the last sentence you see, when he is ending the paragraph: calm, patient, all-suffering spiritual race upon the world of thought. So this is the way that we have to organize our speech with the literary devices. Then one more example from Swamiji's speech. How he concludes, you see. The conclusion, see, our beginning and conclusion should not be in same style always. We should have different style of beginning and concluding it. So it is in Ramnathpuram, present Ramnathpuram. The king of Ramnath has invited him, and he delivers a speech, and he ends the speech like this, you see. It's almost impossible to express my thanks for the kindness and cordiality with which you have received me. But if I may be permitted to say so, I will add that my love for my country, and especially for my countrymen, will be the same whether they receive me with the utmost cordiality or spurn me from the country. For we read in the Gita that Krishna says, men should work for work's sake only, and love for love's sake. The work that has been done in the Western world has been very little. There is no one present here who cannot do 100 times more work than has been done by me. And I am anxiously waiting for the day when mighty minds will arise, gigantic spiritual minds, ready to go forth out of India to the ends of the world, teaching spirituality and renunciation, which ideas came from the forests of India and belong to Indian soil alone. This is how he ends the speech. You see what a powerful ideas, thought, philosophy, choice of words, motivating style of the sentences. So this we have to keep in mind. So significant quotation when we have, you get a lot of ideas from Sermon on the Mount is one of the very good examples of that. Even Mahatma Gandhi writes in one of his smallest books I have read, he says that one of the books which has impressed him, influenced him much in his life is Sermon on the Mount. like the story of Shravan Kumar, how it influenced him. Like that, the Sermon on the Mount also influenced him much, because when you address, you take the ideas and the quotes from the world literature, the scriptures, and from the books of the past like Emerson, Walt Whitman, and David Thoreau, S. Radhakrishnan, Swami Vivekananda, parables of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, speeches of Winston Churchill, Will Durant's Story of Philosophy, Towards the New World by S. Radhakrishnan. I'll give a list in the next session. So this will help you to become a very quality speaker, and your content will be rich. It will be, your brain will be fertile to deliver those things. And quotation, when we have seen, Viduraniti is another great book which will help you to get ideas on various topics actually. Even Mahabharata also has got plenty of stories. We call a lot of stories inside. And for quotations, you can have from Tirukkural, very apt. See, nowadays a lot of management workshops are being conducted on leadership, and we talk about communication skills, we talk about anger management, we talk about human resource management, etc. You want to talk on anger management, controlling one's emotions. You see what a beautiful shloka in Bhagavad Gita. I just tell you, in chapter 2nd, 63rd verse, Lord says, Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat shruti vibhramaha, shruti bhramshat buddhinasho pranashyati. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. What does it mean? From anger comes delusion, and from delusion, loss of memory. From loss of memory comes the ruin of discriminative power, and from the ruin of discrimination, the person perishes. So it is anger management, that how to control oneself, why one should control. Then we talk about delegation, how to recognize, identify the right person for the right job. That is also one of the traits of managers. See, sacred Kural, Tirukkural, Thiruvalluvar says, Idhanai idhanal ivan mudikkum endrenni adanai avan kan vidal. Who can do that particular work? You have to assign the task to that particular person. This is what a beautiful couplet. Within within 1.5 or less, little bit more than that, Thiruvalluvar has said a beautiful aspect of delegation. And then you have from Brihadaranya Upanishad, you are talking about motivating people. And you want to motivate somebody at the end, you want to end a speech with forceful quotation. So in Upanishads you have got a lot of quotations of such kind. One I will tell you from Brihadaranya Upanishad. It says, Sa yata kamo bhavati yat kratur bhavati tat karma kurute, yat karma kurute tat abhisampadhyate. What does it mean? You are what your deep driving desire is. As your desire is, so is your will. As your will is, so are your efforts. And as is your effort, so is your destiny. See what a beautiful shloka. That is a quotation you can use it. So finally, I'll talk about anecdote. Anecdotes can be from our own life. We can select nice anecdotes and tell it. And in the next session, I will talk to you about what are the books that we can refer. Then we will go for some more aspects of public speaking. Thank you.